Do you have any idea what Californian city has the highest crime rate? According to CNN, it's Oakland, which is also the third most dangerous city in the United States. Last year, Oakland had 131 homicides, the most in 4 years. So, who commits these crimes?
I have a business partner, an ex-business partner, who has a nephew, who had a nephew, who was killed up here on 41st in Santa Rita. 19 years old, I knew him since he was a baby. He got killed by a gang member because he had a stupid red cap on.
We estimate close to 60% of the serious violence when we talk about shootings and homicides are related to gang activity. And that's based on some studies that we've had done.
In 2010, the Oakland Police Department issued gang injunctions that named 15 individuals as so-called gang members from North Oakland, and later, in 2012, added another 40 from the Fruitville district. The injunctions imposed a curfew on those listed and restricted them from associating from one another, possessing weapons, doing drugs, and recruiting gang members. Any violation would result in up to 6 months in jail and up to a $1,000 fine. The gang injunction angered the community, which led to protests in the streets and city council meetings. Ruben Leal is a Fruitville native who believes he was wrongly listed on the gang injunction.
When I first got served the papers, that wasn't when I found out I was on the gang injunction. I found out before that and I was shocked. I was actually going to Laney at the time and taking some classes there. I didn't think I was still like on their radar or anything like that.
Cesar Cruz teaches a social justice class called Adelante to students at Arise High School. He is also the founder of Homies Empowerment, an organization that brings together members of opposing gangs.
We had 2 individuals who were not at all in any kind of gang, but because they were put on this list, they were being followed, they were being criminalized, they were being searched all the time, and they came and they testified and they brought witnesses, but in the end it didn't matter because it was their word next to this officer's word.
Being placed on a gang injunction affected me and my family's life like in a negative way. Like we were stigmatized. I haven't been convicted of a crime as an adult. I'm already 24, about to be 25, so I feel like they're punishing me for like something that happened, in my past when I was young.
Oftentimes, the injunctions were not even enforced, so in effect, people like Ruben were negatively impacted for no reason.
If there is a breaking of the restrictions that are put on somebody in terms of a gang injunction, the follow-through should be that, in fact, if they are still involved in restricted activities, then they need to be in jail. If that's not happening, then there needs to be a reason why we spend so much money on gang injunctions to put these restrictions on people if, in fact, they're still involved in criminal activity.
I think it's a little early for us. We just haven't had the data analyzed as of yet to actually say to you that just the gang injunction is reducing violence or making the community safer.
No, they're not working. They can't work because, first of all, even to have an injunction, you have to have someone to uphold the injunctions. In other words, the people who are policing need to be more visible, and they're just not. There's not enough visibility here, probably not enough police personnel.
A lot of times, gang injunctions, they say that they're kind of effective, but what happens is they spread the crime somewhere else.
And what we've seen since the gang injunction is that crime in those areas have been reducing steadily. Now, that's not to say that crime in other parts of the city has not been increasing, and we don't know if there's a correlation between those two.
We've deemed them criminals. We've deemed them a nuisance in our community. We've wiped 400 blocks clean, and violence has now gone up.
Michael Siegel, an attorney who represented Ruben and others listed on the gang injunctions, stated in an email that, quote, "We estimate the OPD has spent approximately $3 million on the gang injections so far."
It's up to the chief of police to figure out when, at what point, he'd like to do an analysis of the effectiveness of the gang injunction.
If you're going to implement a policy that's not working and it's expensive to boot, it needs to stop.
So what's next for Oakland Police Department? Operation Ceasefire. Ever since Ceasefire began last October, it seems the gang injunctions have been dropped.
Ceasefire is what we're focused on because we want this community to be safer. And we know that if we implement Ceasefire correctly, if we follow through on the promises that we make, that we could be successful at this strategy.
Ceasefire is a partnership with the community where certain individuals are offered opportunities for education and job training if they stop their criminal activities. If not, they will face a prison term.
My understanding about the Ceasefire program previously was that there wasn't that follow-through. They sat the guys down, they told them, look, we're going to be focusing on you. We have these resources that you can avail yourself of. And then when in fact they continued in criminal activity, there wasn't a follow-through with the threat. But I understand the fact that there's a real desperation on the part of OPD, given their limited resources, to deal with this crime problem, which is getting worse.
In response to the gang injunctions, Ruben partnered up with local groups to create a mural and a community garden. This was a way for him to both contribute to and show pride in his community.
Programs are getting cut, parks are getting closed, libraries are getting closed, for them just to be spending that money on that. And right now, they're not even enforcing the gang injunction right now. So I feel like all that money just went down the drain, like an epic fail.
We understand that a lot of kids go to gangs as a second family, as a sense of protection.
I see some gangs, they look out for the neighborhood, and then some don't, some gangs selling drugs and whatnot, but I think a lot of these kids that are in gangs, they're just trying to find some outlet, I would think, as an alternative to a gang injunction would be you named all these people that are having trouble, try to help them out, try to see if they could transform their lives around.
So it's not telling a kid, leave a gang. It's saying, what's the gang doing? Could the gang take care of the neighborhood? Can you have a healthy gang member? But most people get scared of that idea. They don't want to hear that you can fix a gang. They don't want to hear that a gang member can be healthy and empowered and have access to resources and take care of the neighborhood.